So I'm here today in Drew's block and I'm interplanting trees, and I'm gonna show you how it's done. First person. So on my quad and trailer inside of here, I got the essentials. I got the tool that you need, the dibble bar, which is a hard steel bar. It's got a foot pedal there. That's what I use to dig into the earth. I have my trees. They're very, very nice trees. They come from a good friend of mine who every year for 10 years straight won the Grand Champion Award at the Fryersburg Fair. If you want to know who he is, just Google that. Very, very good genetic. It's very important when you're looking for good genetic. What you're looking for is the bud sets on the trees. So you're looking at these little orange looking colored dots, and that's where all the new growth comes out of. So you're looking for healthy bud sets, you're looking for a strong root structure, and you're looking for trees that aren't dry. So I like to open one bundle at a time, and the way I do it is I put them in a 5-gallon bucket. Now for transplants, you got two different types of transplants you can buy. You can buy bare root transplants, or you can buy plugs. Plugs are my favorite, and what plugs are is, I'll show you the roots, but what it is they take the roots and they part them together with a gel. So it's just like one rectangular block. And those are great with the dibble bar because you can just dig into the soil, pop the gap, stick the plug in, and then stomp on it, and they go quicker. But with these bare roots, with these roots being bare open, bare naked, you have to be a little more gentle when you plant them. And the way I try to plant them is I try to like mimic a plug. I'll show you first person. But I got bare roots, and the reason I went with bare roots is because I only buy my genetic from 2 suppliers, and the reason I only buy them from 2 suppliers is because I have very good relationships with these guys, and they have kick-ass genetic, and what they have is bare roots. So we're planting bare roots this season. So I carry 1 bucket with some wood chips at the bottom, moist wood chips. Peat moss is good too. These are wrapped with, these were wet before they were wrapped up. These have wood chips. It helps retain the moisture. So there's 100 per bundle. There's about 50 here and about 50 here. And what I like to do is I like to fill the bucket but not pack it too much, because when I pull out my seedlings, I don't want them to be too clumped together where I can't pull them apart. So kind of being gentle. You don't want to rip the roots of other trees too much, but sometimes it's inevitable. All right, so I'll place those in here, and you can see it's like the roots that take up most space in the bucket. That really wasn't that many trees. This is packed pretty good. So I'll take a nice bundle here. So I probably only, when I do it, I probably only put about 20 trees in a bucket at a time. I could get more, but the reason I don't is because I don't want the roots fighting with each other too much. So I'll do that, and then every time once I'm done with the bundle, I'll package it back up, because what you don't want to happen is you don't want the roots to get dried out and exposed in the wind and the elements, because it's a lot harder for the tree to thrive with dry roots. So I'll wrap that up there, and sometimes I place a weight on the top to weight it down. That's what I'll do this time. Sometimes you can flip it, but I'll just do 1 bucket at a time because I don't want the roots to be exposed to too much air. So I got what I need. I got my dibble bar and I got my bucket of trees. Now when I'm planting plugs, I have a pouch on my side that rests on my side, and you can pull the plugs out and it goes a little quicker. But like I said, these are bare roots, they take a little longer. So this block that I'm walking through, this was a brush block, and what this was is, you can see in the distance all these big trees. It looked exactly like that 2 years ago. So the reason I named this block Drew's block is because my best friend Drew, rest in peace, he was up here when I did my first big brush harvest, and we harvested this block together. So I named it after him, and the first year that we did it, we got up to, you can see I've already interplanted some trees from last year, which for the most part are doing pretty good. I haven't fertilized them. They're still establishing the roots. Some are a little off color, but for the most part they're growing, not showing signs of death, so that makes me really happy. But you can see as far as interplanting goes, I got last year to about, goes down for quite a bit, and I'm gonna come through cut all this red osier in a bit too, but I got to about right here. This is where we finished harvesting. So last season my crew and I, we did from here down to finish the block. And one thing is, we drag, when we do our brush, they're coming from big trees like this. And the reason I keep a few big trees in every block, about a dozen trees, is because it's for a few reasons. The trees that I leave over, that are left over, they're pretty nice. They have good shape, good bud sets, they grow good, they have good color. I leave them for a seed source. I leave them as a wind blocker too for the trees. And the main reason is for the seed source, because nurseries are great. You can get trees from them. You can get lots of them, thousands and thousands for a good price. But if it ever got unaffordable, or if nurseries went under or something, with these wild trees, I always have a sustainable regenerating tree farm, because every year these big trees, they drop seedlings. Some of them drop dozens, some of them drop even more or less. But I'll move some trees around, but it's easier to buy right now from a nursery. But it's always good because I have my own seed source, keeping some of the big trees. But the big ones that we do cut for harvest, for brush harvest, we'll cut them right at the base. The tree goes down, and then from there I section the tree, because if you don't section it, it's way too heavy to move. I section a tree, and typically the base isn't too good, so we'll take the base, we'll huck it in the pile, and everything gets recycled here. This all gets turned to firewood. The branches, the healthy ones I sell. The ones that aren't healthy, that are discolored or just not well, I burn in my fire pit. It's great fire starter when it dries up. But the tree comes down, and then from there I section it, and usually the middle of the tree, the base is the base of the tree. It's a stump. We toss that aside. The very top is usually pretty junky, because at the top of the tree, especially during harvest time around October, it's just ridden with cones, because at that time the trees are reproducing. So they're just ridden with cones. That's no good for brush. Some customers like the cones. I put like a little bit in there, but we'll toss there. And then the middle of the tree, it's all good. So we'll clip that for brush, and then we toss all the scraps aside. And then during the summer, I come through and I clean up my blocks. I come through with the tractor trailer, I throw it on the trailer, and then I process it into firewood. But when these trees are left over, these stumps, they're pretty big. They take a long time to naturally decay. And on average, when farmers are harvesting Christmas trees, they're cutting them when they're 6 to 8 feet. And after one cycle of planting trees, it gets to a point when you're working through your fields, and you step on a stump and it just crumbles underneath your feet. And that's the best too, because that puts good stuff back into the soil. And unlike stump removers are great. They make your field look pretty. They remove the stumps, but it's not good for the topsoil. So to let your trees naturally decay is the best thing that can happen for your ground. Is great for all the future growth of everything. But what I do is, because all these trees that were planted 20-30 years ago by 3 brothers, the Bouchard brothers, they're all planted perfectly 6 foot apart. They did it with a mechanical planter. At this time there wasn't as much like red osier growing around. They went around, they just went right down the field, and they planted them 6 foot, 6 foot, 6 foot. So when I'm interplanting with my dibble bar, it's easy for me, because I know if I plant in between these stumps, give or take a few inches, every tree is going to be about 6 feet apart, which is the perfect spacing that you want. 6 by 6 is good because it's good for mowing between rows. It gives the tree the diameter that it needs to grow nice, flush, and round. So for me, when I'm interplanting, it makes it easy to just go between the stumps, and it goes faster than if you're planting in an open field, where you kind of got to make sure you're planting straight and that you're planting the right distances. And when I do that, sometimes I measure it with my dibble bar. Usually about 2 dibble bar lengths is a good distance. But with this, it's easy because I just go up and down the roads, planting in between the stumps. So planting time. I got my bucket of transplants. The reason we didn't plant this side over is because from the first brush harvest, these piles you see right here started right about here. So you can see this is the last one that I planted last year. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna go down the row, and I'm gonna go all the way to the end. So the reason I love dibble bars versus a spade is because it goes a lot quicker. And like I said, when you're planting plugs, it's almost twice as fast. But this is the way I like to do it, slow motion. Bar goes in the ground, foot goes on it, and this is nice, good ground. That went in nice and easy. It's nice, soft ground. And this is the difference with plug and transplants. With plugs, you stick it in, you create your pocket, and then this little pocket right here is enough to take that plug with that rectangular block, stick it in that little gap, tamp it, and then move. But what I like to do is I stick my dibble bar in the ground, and because the bare roots they're wider, they need a little more space, I give it a little more of a wedge right there, and I like to spin this. So now I have like a pretty good tunnel. So then I'll take a tree out one at a time. And going back to genetic and how great of a genetic this is, you can see these roots, very developed root structure. This is great for a 5-year-old tree. And look at these bud sets, bud there, bud there, bud there, bud there, bud there, bud there. This is gonna grow to be a very, very full tree. So I take out my dibble bar. You can't plant it when the dibble bar is in there. And you can either bend over, but I go down on the ground, I drop to one knee, and then from here I take the roots and I try to make them like a plug. So I take them and kind of line them in, and I'll feed them through the hole here. Through the hole we just did with the dibble bar. I get it in nice in there. And then from here you got two options. You can tamp it in, or what I like to do if there's no rocks, like there aren't rocks in this field because of the potato farmers like 60, 70 years ago, when this all used to be potatoes, they picked up like majority of the rocks. So I don't have many rocks, which is awesome. But what you need to do is after you get the tree in, you need to tamp it, because when the wind hits these open air pockets, it dries the roots out and the tree will not survive. So you can tamp on it, but what I like to do is I like to punch it with my fist. I like to come around, so I like to smoosh in this side of the tree first, and then I smoosh in this side, and then I close that little pocket, and voila. We got a tree in the ground right there. That's right in between this stump, and we have another stump that's right here. It's got peat moss on it. But what I'm gonna do is I'm planting a tree here, I'm planting another tree here. So without talking, I'll just show you how I do it. Voila, that is how I plant Christmas trees. Interplanting, the way that I do it. It's very resourceful, it's very sustainable, and the beautiful thing about it is here I bought an overgrown Christmas tree plantation, and I knew I wasn't selling most of these big trees as Christmas trees, even though a lot of these I could because they're nice big trees. I saw a market for brush, so I cut these big trees. I make money on the brush when it's time for brush harvest, and then all the brush that I cut opens up space for interplanting, so I can go through the following spring, interplant my trees. And during the summer I kind of do my cleanup and maintenance. I go through, I clean up the scraps from last year's brush, I turn all of that into firewood. I think this year I'm gonna start selling it a lot more. I kind of just cut enough for my camp and for myself, but I have so much stumps and so much wood that I might as well sell it, because otherwise I gotta burn it. And something else I like to do is if I see a nice wildling, which is not like this one here, I have some nice ones back here. And what a wildling is, it's a tree that drops from one of these natural big trees. I'll move trees around. So here, I'll show you right now how I do that. So this is easy when they're brand new. I got them in the bucket, but we got a wildling here. That's not a good one to move because it's not developed enough. But right here, for example, this is a wild tree that came off one of the original big trees. And look at this, I can coin this my own genetic. This is nice. Not quite as many bud sets as the other genetic, but this is pretty damn healthy. It's the perfect size to interplant. I'm gonna show you how I interplant these. Ideally, you wanna do it on a rainy day, because when it's rainy, the roots come out a lot easier. But yeah, let's see, I'm gonna just grab it and go quickly to where I gotta plant it. The key when you're interplanting is when you get these trees out of the ground, pulling the wildlings, you wanna get them in quicker than almost as quick as it takes to pull them out. So it rained a lot yesterday, so this should come out nice because the ground is pretty wet. And it is. And when you pull them out proper, you'll see they come out more like a plug than a bare root because all of the soil is still attached. That's a pretty good root system. So you see it's got all the soil, that's good. I'm gonna go right to where I was. I can plant one right here. Yeah, that's the perfect spot. Dig that in, pop that up, spin that around. I'm gonna take the wildling. Make sure all these roots are in the darkness underground. And this tree, you can see it's a little bent at the bottom, so I'm actually gonna plant it lower to where it straightens. So when I harvest it as a Christmas tree, it's got more of a straight base. Voila. Look at that. A wildling. You can't even tell the difference. And I'm gonna shear them the same, I'm gonna feed them the same, so enjoy your life. So yeah, this is how I interplant trees. Again, this is Drew's block. Don't forget the name. Wouldn't be planting this block right now if you didn't help me harvest it out. But this is how it's done right here. Just planting trees. Another day planting trees. Thank you for watching. I hope you consider buying real Christmas trees, because it helps farmers and people like me. And you see right here, there's an existing tree at some point right here where this stump is really decayed. And this is what I mean when you step on these, they almost just crumble apart. Puts great stuff back in the earth. So I prefer to let my stumps naturally decay than to mechanically take them out. But I have a big gap between that big tree and that big tree. And to me, I can fit 3 in between. I always like to plant a little tighter than looser because I want to make the most of the space. And it's okay to harvest a 6-foot tree because I have some fields that are planted wider where I'm going to get a lot more space to grow like 8 and 9ers. But this is a little tricky here because you see, I'm interplanting close to the stump. So this is why I get it, why people mechanically remove stumps, especially when they're this big. But I was hitting a root there, so I couldn't get my dibble bar up all the way. But there's definitely a pocket here. There always is. There's another root there. There we go. And the trees, they find a way. They all just want to grow. So I've seen some great Christmas trees growing right next to the stumps of existing trees. Once these roots are in the ground and established, they find where they gotta go. So don't be discouraged from planting trees next to existing stumps. There we go. Look at that. Enjoy your life, pal. So this is what I'm doing. This is what I'm doing all day. I hope you like this video, and these trees will be ready for harvest sometime around 2030. Thank you for watching.